Hi everybody, I'm joined Róisín Maloney, who is going for Oifigeach na Gaeilge. So Róisín, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you keeping?
Grand. Róisín, tell me a bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So, hi, Gaeilge. My name is Róisín Maloney, and I am running for the position of Oifigeach na Gaeilge. I am from lovely County Roscommon, and I'm 18 years old. I am in my first year of the arts degree in Maynooth, and Nua Gaeilge is one of my subjects. I'm the eldest of three. I have two younger sisters, and outside of college, I'm really active in volunteering. So I namely volunteer with three organisations: Jigsaw, Spun Out, and Plan International. So I think that's quite a good overview of what I get up to.
Excellent. So how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
I'm going to go with opinionated, approachable, and determined. They're my three.
They're actually brilliant qualities. Opinionated. I haven't heard that so far, but I feel like that is good. Get yourself in there. I feel like you have to, in a way, be opinionated to get things done. Like there's no point in
sure, yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's almost thrown as a bit of an insult, and I don't take it as that. Like, I am opinionated and I'm very aware of it, so I think it's okay.
That's brilliant. So what do you think the role of Oifigeach na Gaeilge entails?
Yeah, well, I think, the title kind of gives it away. It's all things promoting and preserving the Irish language, which is something I'm incredibly passionate about. What I also love about this role is I feel it's one of the only roles which there's a real overlap between kind of the education side of things and the social life. It's the kind of thing where one day you might be collaborating with the VP for education, and 10 minutes later you could be working with the VP for student life. There really is, the opportunity there for that overlap and kind of both elements of what happens in Maynooth. So that really drew me towards the role.
Brilliant. So, what do you think you can bring to the role?
Yeah, well, listening back to the other interviews, I feel like the kind of default answer for this is being passionate. But I think the passion speaks for itself. I'm studying Nua Gaeilge and I'm running for Oifigeach, so it goes without saying I'm passionate about the Irish language. But I think maybe something a little bit different I can bring to the role is I'm not coming from a Gaelic background. So I feel that I really do understand the kind of worries and concerns of those who are learning the Irish language. Who better to represent their needs and be their voice than someone who's still in the process of learning the language and is really passionate about it at the same time.
Excellent. So, I know being a first year, it's tough to have gotten involved in this year. How have you been involved within the university and the student union so far?
Yeah, as you said, it was so difficult this year kind of to get stuck in anything, not having the experience of being on campus. But I'm the academic rep this year for both Nua Gaeilge and for English, which was thoroughly enjoyable. I'm also a student engagement ambassador, and I sit on the Cuiste na Gaeilge within the Cuiste Cultura of the USI. So obviously both surrounding the Irish language, and then I am the first year representative of the Feminist Society. So, try to get as active as was feasible this year, I suppose.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I say it's so hard. Like even myself, I was on campus for 6 months, but those 6 months I spent settling in. So I feel so sorry for the first years who have only had 6 months of college and have had it all taken up with the pandemic. But brilliant, you really did get involved as much as you could. So, sorry, tell me a bit about your campaign so far.
Yeah, for sure. So I think my campaign was quite different to others. When we had all the candidate calls and everything, obviously social media was really kind of emphasized given the fact we were running online elections. But I actually decided against making a campaigning Instagram or a campaigning Twitter, which was a little bit of a last minute decision in the sense the morning campaigning started, I came onto my phone and I had 40 new followers from all of the social medias that had been created. And I just kind of got the sense that there was so much happening online. It was almost overwhelming for students, particularly for the first year. I was really aware that maybe some of them weren't too sure as to what happens within the union. And then to have all of these Instagram pages for elections that maybe you weren't aware of was very full on. So I decided against making a new Instagram and I worked off, my personal account. And instead of, posting to my feed and my stories, I reached out to students one by one. So just contacted them on, whatever social media it may be, and just said, like, I'm running for this position, I'm really passionate, I'm studying in Gaeilge, do you have any questions? Do you have any feedback? And it was so enjoyable because I got to engage with students that otherwise I might not have gotten the chance to talk to this year, particularly the older year groups who, I hadn't been mixing with. So yeah, it was really good fun, I must say.
That's really interesting because it kind of brings it back to the more like traditional campaigning of like what we would see on campus, of people standing around campus talking to people, rather than, like, I remember last year kind of looking for more of a social media approach. But that's really good because it's real tradition, like a traditional type of campaigning, and I haven't really seen much of that. So that's brilliant. So how do you plan on securing the votes of the students?
Yeah, I suppose it kind of goes back to my idea of campaigning. Like, I really did try to run as kind of engaging as an interactive campaign as was possible online, and like the replies were just so positive. But what I also really noticed with some of the replies were people kind of saying, oh, like, I didn't actually know there was elections, like, kind of, what are you asking me to do here, almost, and like asking how they went about voting and stuff. So I really hope the fact that I approached it in such a way will work to my advantage. And as I said, like, win or lose, it has been such an enjoyable experience talking to all of these students. But that was one thing that really stood out to me as I kind of spoke to students one by one, was very much so that, not everyone was kind of tuned into exactly what was going on. In particular, I found the first years, which, was quite disappointing, being a first year and then knowing that they weren't kind of aware as to how they could be represented within the union.
Exactly. Yeah. So what plans or ideas do you have if you were to succeed in the role?
Yeah, so I suppose like another obvious answer here is like events of Gaeilge, which is, it goes without saying that that is going to happen within this role. But I think kind of using that umbrella term is a little bit idealistic, in the sense that I think it'd be really challenging to come up with an event which caters for, a fluent Irish speaker and somebody who's starting out learning Irish all within the one. So I would love to look at, hosting events, and it be stated in advance kind of what like level or fluency this is going to cater for, because I feel like that would really help with engagement if students are aware that when they show up they're going to be surrounded by, other students who have a similar standard of Irish to them. I think the kind of nerves, might be combated a little bit through that. As well as that, I've been in contact with the candidate for the Erasmus senator, and we kind of came up with, obviously it's quite vague at the moment given I don't know whether I'll be in the position or not, but maybe something like an introduction to the Irish language, and not only the language but kind of, the heritage, kind of with, Erasmus students in mind, and maybe people who had exemptions from Irish throughout, secondary school, to introduce them back to the language and start from the very basics in an environment that would be, very informal, very sociable, to be a way to meet people as well. So I suppose they're kind of the two key ideas at the moment.
Excellent. I'm also studying Irish at university level, and like, I know myself, I take part as much as I can within events that are being hosted by the university or like the societies. But sometimes I know myself, like, I'm a bit like, oh, I don't know, like, is my level of Irish good enough, even though I'm studying in second year? So I don't know how students who maybe studied it in like up to sixth year and then maybe haven't spoken Irish for 2 or 3 years, how they might feel going into events where they're like, oh, well, everybody must be fluent and I haven't spoken, but I still love the Irish. So that's a really, really interesting point.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And as well, this year, I'm aware, like, even as a new Gaeilge student, I have found it so hard to find opportunities to use my spoken Irish. So that makes me wonder, if somebody wasn't studying Irish, have they had any opportunity this year to be using the language? So for sure, ensuring that those opportunities are in place for people next year would be, really important to me.
Brilliant. So how are you going to campaign for the students within the role of Oifigeach na Gaeilge?
Yeah, I suppose that kind of ties back to, what I hope to achieve in, kind of dividing it so that, students are with people who are of a similar, fluency and whatever. But I think as well, you know, I am only in first year, but I think I'm suitable for the role because I'm a first year, not in spite of that. And this year, you know, has just been such a challenging year. So I think to have somebody who has endured this first year, is really aware of what people has gone through and can bring that voice forward to the executive could be so beneficial. Like, you know, I definitely think we need to praise our tutors and our lecturers and all the rest of it, but we can also acknowledge that the standard of education this year hasn't been as high as what a normal year might consist of. And I really want to ensure that the Students' Union next year is making decisions with students in mind and ensuring that next year, you know, the resources, the allowances, they're all there, and that nobody's burdened with unnecessary worries when we do return to campus.
Brilliant. And my final big question for you is, what does this position mean to you?
Yeah, for sure. The position of Oifigeach means a lot to me, you know. As I mentioned, like studying Nua Gaeilge, I'm the rep Nua Gaeilge and I'm running for Oifigeach. So the passion and the commitment to the language speaks for itself. And, you know, I'm really excited to be running as a first year because, you know, whatever if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, whatever I implement hopefully will kind of last when I'm in my final year. And that's really exciting as well. As I mentioned, I'm not coming from a Gaelic background. So I think coming from an English medium secondary school, I'm really conscious of how difficult it can be for students trying to adapt. And I really want to make sure that the supports are there, whether that be, you know, academically, if the student studying Nua Gaeilge who's struggling, or if you have no interest in Irish as a subject, but you just want to make use of your Google Focal, that, you know, whatever your aim is regarding the language, that you have the opportunity to do it.
Brilliant. So that kind of wraps up the serious side of the interview. And now we're getting into my favourite part, the quick fire questions. I'm sure you've seen some of them as you watched.
Yeah.
So we're going to begin. Have you any unusual nicknames?
Not really. I was trying to think. The only one is, like, my aunts and uncles all call me Rosie, which has never stuck with my friends, but that's what my aunts and uncles all call me. And then my dad always calls me Rosie Bud, and always has done. I couldn't even tell you where the name stems from, and it's really embarrassing, but it's my Snapchat name as well, Rosie Bud. And I remember when I went to Oifigeach, now keep in mind I was like 6th class at the time, I couldn't spell it Rosie because the name was gone, so it's spelled with a Z. Like, I thought I was so cool at the time. So my Snapchat name is Rosie Bud with a Z, which is really embarrassing. But yeah, that's the only nickname I can think of.
I know. I think all of our Snapchat names at this stage are just something mad, something absolutely bonkers. Brilliant. So what would be your most used emoji?
I'm gonna have to say, you know, like the smiley face with the little hearts.
Love it.
I use that in practically any context, or as well, like not the laughing emoji, but the crying emoji. Like, if I find something really funny, I will overuse that emoji a lot. So I'm gonna have to go with either of those two.
Brilliant. I love emojis. Like, I literally throw them in anywhere. I'm like, sarcastic comment, sad comment, happy comment, emoji. So this is
what to do.
yeah. This is kind of inspired by, like, I'm a Celebrity, and when they have like their final meal. So if you could have one more meal, what would it be?
I can't say I watch I'm a Celebrity. I have to answer pasta, practically any type of pasta, or if it was a food, I'm a pure chocoholic, so I'm going to go with the bar dairy milk. You can't go wrong.
What's your opinion on tattoos?
Yeah, I love tattoos, I have to say, particularly the ones with, like, you know, a meaning behind them when it comes to a family member or whatever it may be. That said, I have no pain. I don't think I will ever get a tattoo. I wouldn't be able for it, but I do think they're lovely.
Yeah, no, I think I might be the same, because I can't remember who I was saying this to in a previous interview, but I'm so indecisive that, like, I would be like, yes, I really want this tattoo for this meaning. And then 6 months down the line, I'd be like, do I really like that tattoo? Nah. And then it's there. Like, it's...
Yeah.
Okay, so are you a morning person or a night person?
Definitely a night person. That's not even a question. I always say that I do my best work like at 1 o'clock in the morning, and that might just be the fact I procrastinate. yeah, I am not a morning person, so
Instagram or Twitter?
I'm going to say Instagram. I definitely would post on my Instagram more, but I probably spend more time on Twitter. Like recently, particularly even with the elect, it's a great way to follow what's going on. So I'd probably spend more time on Twitter, but post more on my Instagram.
Brilliant. And finally, what do you put on your pancakes?
As I mentioned, I'm a pure chocoholic, so Nutella. It has to be Nutella.
Nutella all the way.
Yeah.
Love it. Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us today, Róisín. I really, really appreciate you wanting to get involved. Thank you to
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Thank you to everyone who's watched over the past 2 weeks. This is our final day. We have one more interview to go, or last week even. I can't believe it. I can't believe the engagement these have gotten. And also, don't forget, tomorrow is polling day. Please, please, please get out and vote. Or get out and vote. Stay in your room. Stay in your house and vote. Please make sure you're registered, because unless you're registered, you can't vote, which is really, really important. Yeah. So, Róisín, is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
Just thanks a million for having me on, and as you register, who the candidates are. If anybody has any last minute questions, my DMs are open. Feel free to get in touch, and I would massively appreciate your number one vote tomorrow.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.